Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to welcome you to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today with us, we have Angel Ribo. Angel is a CEO, coach, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and host for Mindalia TV, and he's going to be conducting today an interview to Tisse Mallon. Tisse she teaches emotional intelligence. She is the creator and founder of the Elar Institute, an organization dedicated to teaching emotional intelligence and creating a space of belonging with an educational foundation in mindfulness, professional development, and creativity. Tisse has been an inspirational speaker and holistic lifestyle teacher for the past 8 years, as well as a producer of events and programs focusing on connection, culture, and wellness. If you want to help the world through Mindalia TV, there is a couple of things that you can do that could make a big difference to many people. Just by liking this video or adding a positive comment below this screen, you are helping us reach out to more people who could benefit from the content of our channel. Also, while we are live streaming, we're going to have the chat on the side of the screen. There you can enter your questions. Just please follow the format, the word question in caps, the place where you're seeing us from, and the actual question that you want to ask. At the end of the interview, Tisse will be kind and answer for us and for you. Without further ado, I'm going to be leaving you with Angel. Angel.
Thank you very much, Mirna. It's a really, really big pleasure for us to have you today with us, Tisse. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent. So let's start the conversation today, Tisse. And so when I was reading, really, I mean, what you're doing today and listening to Mirna's words, emotional intelligence is a big concept. So how do you see, what does emotional intelligence mean to you?
Yeah, so to me, it really means just understanding. We talk a lot about body, mind, and soul, but we really don't understand how they fit together, like the machinery of our survival-oriented brain, our emotions, where they come from, what are they related to? And so by understanding really how all of those work together, we have a better understanding of how to create the lives that we actually desire as creators, and not just being at the effect of circumstances around us.
Okay. And how can we do that? How can we create those lives that we want to create, as opposed to the ones that are like created by our environment?
Right. So I think, first of all, so I mentioned mind, body, and spirit. So the mind, this brain that we have, it's a machine. It's a tool that we're given. And I'm sure you've probably heard this before, right? That you don't have a soul. Like, we don't have souls. We are souls. Like, that's who we are. And we have this beautiful machine of a mind, our brain, to make sense of the world in. But the problem is that we end up confusing who we are with our mind, with our thinking, that's going on all the time. And so when that happens, now we enter a discord. We enter a discord between what the brain wants as a machine for survival, which, it wants convenient, it wants easy, it wants, just to be safe, really. And it comes into discord with the soul that wants to explore and play and grow and do things that are not quite so safe, easy, or convenient, right? And so the more that we start pulling those two things apart, the more we start to understand, oh, I am that soul. I am the soul that wants to explore and discover and play, and I want to go out there, and I do want to take those risks. And the thoughts that come into my mind that try to keep me safe or try to keep things easy and convenient, well, I can now assess them. I can look at them, but I don't have to be run by them. I'm not sure how, was that clear?
No, oh, absolutely. It was very clear and we understand. But how do you become aware? Because I guess, the first thing is, how do you become aware of all those things? Because, we are so stressed. We have so many things to do. We have to take care of so many different details in our lives. So how do we become aware of those many differences. Because at the end of the day, we have a body, right? And we are thinking, and we have all those, tens of thousands of thoughts every day. But how do we become aware of that this is really happening to us?
Exactly. So, okay, so a few steps, right? First step is, how, I mentioned our inner dialogue, our thoughts that go on and on and on. It's important to pay attention that, Eckhart Tolle, he talks a lot about how there's not just the voice, there's the listener, right? Like the observer, the one that can like listen to that voice that goes on, and that listener is who we really are. So all we are is a consciousness. We're a space in which now life occurs, right? So now we set that idea aside for a moment, right? We are always in communication with our soul, with our higher self, who we really truly are. And that communication is our emotions and feelings. And we're always getting constant feedback. Notice that we always have a thought first and then an emotion. We will never have an emotion that just pops up out of nothing. Sometimes, if we're disconnected or we're trying to push away a negative emotion, we won't notice that that's what's happening. But always, it's going to be the case that there will be a thought, like part of the machinery that's going on, trying to keep us safe, something that it's concluded about the world around us, and then we will have an emotional reaction to it. And that is the communication from our higher self saying, hey, if it's a negative emotion, it's sending us communication that our thinking, what we've concluded, is not so accurate. It's not in alignment with the truth of the universe, of who we are and of what we want for ourselves. And if it's a positive emotion, then it's saying you're on track. That is in alignment. Keep going in that direction. And I think it can be boiled down that simply. It's just like if we're painting with broad strokes. Now, if we want to take it a step further and really understand the nuance of the message coming in, we can take a look at the need that's beneath that emotion. So I'm a big fan of Marshall Rosenberg's work, Nonviolent Communication. And really, what he proposes is this idea that as human beings, we have a whole bunch of needs. We don't just have a need for air and food and water and shelter. No, we have needs that expand into, we have a need for understanding and to be heard. And we have a need to contribute. And we have a need for peace and order. And, I have a deck of cards that helps me to work with people when we're in sessions. And it's a deck of cards that has 70 human needs. And as humans, we all share these needs. And it's not just, 70. There's plenty more than that, but it's, it's a nice starting spot. So these needs, each one of these needs correlates to an emotion that we can experience, either an emotion or a feeling. And so when we take a look at, for example, let me start off with something really easy, right? When we have our need that's not being satisfied of food, we know exactly what that feels like in our body. What's the feeling that it creates when we have a need for food?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we are anxious to eat something, right?
Yeah, like and in our body, we know that sensation of hunger, right? Like we know that feeling. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's really obvious. And so now we know how to take care of that. We have a strategy, an effective strategy to make sure that that need gets met. We will cook for ourselves, or we'll go out to the grocery store, we'll go to a restaurant, or we can ask somebody to cook something for us. Like we have all of these strategies to getting that need met. And there's nothing mysterious about it. Now, what about if we're experiencing the emotion of loneliness, right? If we're feeling lonely, it very naturally points to a need for some companionship, right? But normally, when we have a negative emotion, we make it mean that there's something wrong with us or how we're living our lives. And we'll want to push it away. We'll want to cope with the emotion. We'll want to numb the emotion. will want to, watch TV or eat or drink alcohol, like find some way to cope with having a negative emotion. But if we can really identify, like, what's the need, like that one's, a little more obvious. There are others that maybe aren't so obvious to us. But if we identify, the need that I have is for companionship. And right now it's not being satisfied. And my goal is to find a strategy, an effective strategy to have that need be satisfied. Well, now I can really start brainstorming, utilizing my thinking to find something that will work positively. So I can start thinking, well, maybe I can reach out to family or to some friends, or maybe I can, reach out to make some new friends and find a strategy, whether it's a meetup group or I ask a friend to introduce me to another friend. Like, I can come up with strategies to get that need met. Now, I want to give you an example of a space where we've been taught not only ineffective strategies, but we've been taught strategies that take us further away from actually meeting our needs. So say, for example, I have a need to be heard, right? And we all have that need, right? To be heard, to be understood and listened to. And say, it's with my partner, and I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling very alone because this has been going on, but I haven't really communicated it. So all of a sudden, I blow up on my partner and I say, you just never listen to me. Like, I don't know why you don't care about me anymore. You just don't listen. And I talk and it feels like I'm talking to a wall. And, well, maybe this just isn't working out. And we explode, right? So when that happens, our need to be heard and understood, like, we get further away from actually having that met, because whenever somebody, you're on the receiving end of somebody's aggression and upset like that, we have a tendency to either be like defensive or shut down. But the last thing we're going to want to do is lean in and listen, like, oh yes, please tell me more. That's going to be about the last thing. So the more we're able to, one, be mindful of our communication coming in from soul, which is our emotions, the better we can now take that next step to identify what's the need that's being met or not being met that's underneath that emotion. So then I can build an effective strategy around that to actually have it be met from a space of creating the type of environment that works for me.
And how do you do that discovery, Tisse?
What do you mean?
The strategy that you want to use on a very specific situation. Is there a system? Is there a technique that you can use? There is? Okay, wonderful.
Sure, absolutely. Might you have an example of some, like, an emotion that you've been having this week that's not been very pleasant?
Myself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm such a happy camper. Let me see. Yeah, let's say I have so much to do. I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you is like sensation of overwhelm, right? And maybe tired, frustrated, disgruntled, disappointed in yourself because there's just too much and it feels like I just can't handle it all. Now, normally, what might be a natural reaction of overwhelm? Like, how would we normally react to that and deal with it?
I'm not sure if you are asking the right person, because actually my reaction is to surrender.
Yeah.
So I continually surrender to this kind of situation. So I might not be the best person to help you, but I have to be honest. I'm continuously surrendering when I face myself this kind of situation. So, and then immediately I just release all the energy that otherwise would be like concentrated inside myself. That's what I do. So I just let go, and I try to be extremely present and enjoy what's around me at that precise moment. I don't know if I could answer your question.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. So basically what you've seen for yourself, right? You've built an effective strategy to release that stress. So if we take a look at the first one is really just being in touch with the sensations happening within you, both physical and non-physical, right? So if you're thinking about, that stress, that worry, that disappointment, and you're aware of it, you get access to it. Normally, like, sometimes we try to numb and we don't want to feel those things. But when we actually acknowledge the emotions that are there, well, now well, first let's take a look at what are the needs under that, right? What, like the needs that I'm hearing that are underneath your overwhelm and stress and disappointment in yourself is to really be able to do things to the best of your ability, to have space and clarity, to feel like you're being effective, to feel like the work that you're doing is meaningful and purposeful. Is that accurate? And I just want to check in with you because I also don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's kind of what I heard in that. Is that accurate for you?
Yeah, it can be accurate. I mean, again, I never reached those levels. That's why I'm saying, everybody with, I don't know, with life, and when we are confronting specific situations, we react in a different way, right? And I never reached that point of of being overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a very strong word. So I never reached that point because I know I have to release. And I personally think there's timing is perfect in the universe. So regardless of the amount of work I do every day, I try to serve as many people as possible. And I try to, be interviewing and, looking for amazing, guests as you today. so that we can serve humanity, really. But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. So I never reached that level of maybe overwhelm. Overwhelm is a lot. It's a lot.
What I'm really hearing is your strong need to contribute and make a difference for others. And you have found strategies to obtain peace for yourself. And that's simply, it might be just, taking a breath and realizing, again, what you're committed to, like refocusing, right? Yeah. So I love that example because it's really nice to see that you've figured out what works for you. And I think that that's so important that we each figure out what works for us personally, because what works for one person may not work for another person, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's really wonderful. So let's take a look at an example maybe of somebody that has this building up and is not sure what to do with it. So time and stress, like, just really just being busy and having so much to do, that's such a common ailment of our time, right? We all are, have these very full lives. And it seems like our society almost has attached like this badge of honor to busy. Like, oh, like I'm so busy. You wouldn't believe how busy I am, as if it's like a sense of pride, right? But then we struggle with it. So let's take a look a little bit more at the struggle of like busy and not enough time for ourselves. So if I feel like my days are way too full and I'm not accomplishing everything that I'm out to do, it's important to be present to those emotions that are popping up, because those will really clue me in as to what specifically for me are the needs that are not being met. So I'm going to take myself for an example there, right? So I'm just going to look. So when I have too much on my plate, I feel frustrated, definitely. I feel disappointed and irritable. Irritable is probably like a good word, right? So when I take a look at what are the needs beneath that, for me, I know that I need space. I need time for self-care, like really just to cook my meals, to spend time with my dog, going out walking, enjoying nature. That connection with nature is important to me. And when those things are running low, it will create those emotions, right? Where I'm just, So then I can look at that and really be clear as to how can I really strategize to prioritize meeting those needs that right now are running really low for me. So it might, like for me, oftentimes it looks like shifting my calendar the next few days. It means making sure that I have more time built into my calendar to go out for walks, to cook my meals, to really be clear of the things that I'm choosing to do, so that I'm not taking on tasks that are low in meaning for me. And that's, but that's a strategy, right? Like we can talk about tips and strategies for really how to maximize your life or your day. But I think what's much more powerful is to take a look at what are the needs underneath so that you can craft your own strategies that work for you. And I think like we all have that genius within us to figure that out. It's more than anything taking ourselves through the process of self-awareness and being willing to take the time to go into those emotions that might not be so comfortable.
Is there a way to be certain that the needs that we think we have are the real ones?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because what that question reflects to me is how far we've strayed from trusting ourselves. And so for anybody that's doubtful of like, have I identified the right need or not? I would say trust that you know yourself well enough to start identifying those needs and start building strategies to really meet those needs. Now, if you're testing that out and you're seeing that the strategies that you're coming up with are effective for those needs, and you're still feeling irritable or upset or sad, you can be like, oh, like that's more information for me. Maybe that wasn't the specific need that I was running low on. And then you can kind of like, do another run, like try to like look within and see what else could be going on. And just, continue asking questions. And whenever we ask our brain a question, we get an answer. So we really want to elevate the quality of questions we're asking ourselves. So if it's the need really for collaboration or for partnership that's running low, I'm going to take a look at that. I'm going to strategize for that. And then I'm like, maybe that wasn't it. Maybe it was my need for clarity or understanding that really was what was activated. Then I can take a look at that. And the more that we kind of like hone our own evaluation, our own judgment in that space, the faster we become. We're really great at developing new habits and like setting up structures that work for us like that. So it, like anything, it's a practice that we get better at.
It's a practice. Let's talk about that, because obviously, we're talking about the life of, young adults and adults, right? That's our life. But would there be something, Tisse, that we could start doing, at a younger age that could help us with the challenges that we are going to face in the future, the challenges that you are just describing today?
So you're talking about like the challenge of feeling...
Is there something that we could do earlier in our lives?
Oh, I think the first step is always mindfulness. Mindfulness, self-awareness, really just being present. And that can start anywhere. I'm a big fan of using everyday life as a meditation. So instead of it, for some people, it doesn't work to sit down in one place and meditate. And sometimes, it's easy to make up the excuse of, oh, I don't have time to do that. Not a problem. With the people that I work with, not a problem. Because what we do is we start heightening awareness and mindfulness throughout the days, so that as I'm walking, I remind myself to notice, how does the ground feel beneath my feet? As I'm eating, how does each bite taste and feel in my mouth? as I'm walking outside, what are the colors around me? Okay, so here's a really simple one, right? I love doing this, and you can do this anywhere you are. Almost like if the lights are on, if you've got some sort of light on, I can almost guarantee you that there is always a rainbow of colors around you. And so anytime you can, maybe set a little reminder on your phone or something. But if you remember, look for the rainbow around you. And as you start scanning the room or outside, wherever you're at, you can go through the full color spectrum and look for anything that's blue. And I start looking around, what's blue? I start looking for what's red. I start looking for what's yellow, what's orange in the space, what's green. And you'll start noticing, even if it's like a little speck of trash in the corner, you can find something that has that color. And it's just like a beautiful, simple visual meditation that brings you to the here and now. Because here and now is all we have. This is where life exists. So always I say, okay, you want to start learning a skill early, learn to check in and be present in the moment. And our senses are the most fun, engaging, alive way that I have found to do that. I remember this one time, I was feeling discouraged, and I was walking downtown, and I'm walking amongst buildings and a lot of concrete, and I'm like, okay, I need to relax. I need to breathe. Oh, I'm going to look for the rainbow around me. I'm like, great. Okay. All right, let's do this. So I start looking around, and I get red, I get green, I get yellow, there's like even some rust and, a piece of garbage and, all of this. And then I'm like, what about blue? Where's blue? And, I was so crabby. That day. I was just looking around. I don't see any blue here. There's no blue. Where's the blue? And all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, but my gaze goes up, in between the buildings. And it caught me off guard. It was the bluest sky I had ever seen. And here I was, all crabby, looking all around me, looking down, and I couldn't find the blue. And here, like all along, it was like just this expanse of like the most perfect blue you can imagine. And in that moment, I laughed out loud, and it's just, it really was there for me. It was so present, like just a gift from the universe, from, the space around me, from life. And just, I really got the message in that moment of being present and just the appreciation of all the colors and, what else matters.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful story. So is there something that we could do to help our kids so that when they grow up, they're not going to face the same kind of problems that we are facing as adults today?
First and foremost, I would say it's so important to have space for a child's feelings. All of them. I think whenever we tell a child, stop crying, or don't be mad, or, it'll be okay, stop crying. Any of those are so harmful, because what we're teaching is that it's not okay to have those emotions, and that, or it's not okay to show those emotions. Either way, we're doing a lot of harm. So if a child is upset in any shape, way, or form, to really just, understand what's going on for them, and to be that space for them where they can have strong emotions, and you'll be by their side, and it's okay, and let's figure this out together. Like that sort of approach to emotions, I think, is extremely healthy and sets them up for being able to deal with life powerfully as they grow older.
And what is the line between allowing them to show their feelings and spoiling them?
So my only concern as far as expression of feelings, and it's setting boundaries, right? So the boundaries are, you're not destructive of things, and you're not aggressive towards people. So whether it's with your language or, you physically, we don't hurt people, we don't hurt anything living, and we respect even like our things. So as long as nothing is, in destruction, if we're not being destructive of our surroundings, for me, that's the only boundary that needs to be set. Just as far as a safety issue, and really sharing that value of life and of taking care of each other and our things. But I don't think that giving a child space for their emotions is spoiling a child. Not at all.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking while you were talking that, there are certain things that are taught in the school and others that are not.
Mm.
What's your opinion? What do you think about, what, maybe we could do additional to what we do today in the school, so that our kids would be more kind of prepared to face the challenges that they're going to prepare as adults?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's difficult, right? Because we start thinking, if this is a gap in our educational system, I'm not just saying it's a gap in our systematic educational system. I really do believe it's an educational gap that extends beyond school and to home as well. However, when I take a look at how I might be able to contribute to making a difference there, I see that there is much more power going to the systems and making change on that level, and then having that spread out to families, as opposed to trying to start first with families, and then spreading it out that way. So I believe that every being should have access to this education. And the easiest place to start is the school systems. So I work with a couple of schools currently in teaching this work, and I'm really grateful for those opportunities. And it's been challenging. For me, it's actually not natural to work with children. Like it doesn't come easy and fun. And I think part of why I find it so challenging is because I'm really present to how delicate it is, how precious it is. Working with children is a privilege, and it's a privilege that carries great responsibility, because they're so they're such sponges when they're little, right? Like, children are sponges and they take everything in, and we, sometimes have very brief interactions with them. So we have to be really respectful of that time that we get to spend with them. So if the more that I think, if the more we can get in to schools and organizations and really start showing that this is possible, that it works to deal with our emotions in a gentle way, to really have a space where all emotions are allowed and we can work through them. So it's okay to talk about emotions. And the more that we talk about emotions, the more we can manage them, the more we can really problem solve, so that we can release them, as opposed to holding them in and having them build up within us.
You use a very specific term. You use the term gap. There's a gap. What sort? And you're now working on 2 schools. What a blessing! Exactly. What would be some examples of initiatives that you think that those schools should incorporate, or in general schools, to close that gap?
So first of all, I don't believe in punishment. Punishment is not successful. We can't get somebody to, it might work in the short run. Like, if you want somebody to, stop doing that, okay, maybe, punishment is effective right there in that moment to get that person to stop doing whatever it is that they're doing that you don't want them to do. But if you want a human being who shares values and who is motivated in a way that, you know, they want to contribute to other people and to be gentle with others, we have to teach that. We can't punish somebody into different behavior. We can't punish somebody into a desire to contribute to others, right? So I think that that's the first thing that needs to be looked at, is instead of having children be punished, that's when they need help the most. If children are acting out, they need time to breathe. They need to be taught to relax on their own, to self-regulate. They need to have a space where they can go and have it be safe for them to calm down. So that's one thing. And the other one is really introducing this concept of meditation and just self-awareness, self-reflection. And I know it's really exciting for me. I've started seeing more and more videos on Facebook, on YouTube, where schools are incorporating, you know, small meditations with children so that they can start doing that internal reflection and just that quiet time. I love that. I think that's really powerful. And it's a small step, you know, to take 5 minutes at the beginning of the school day, or, you know, 5 minutes after lunch or before they go home. It's such a gift that doesn't take that much time and will have so many benefits to it.
You spoke about educating people to contribute and to help each other. How do you do that in your life, Tisse? How do you help other people?
Oh, so what's my work? What do I do?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. So yeah, I've got an organization called the Elar Institute. And the Elar Institute has two divisions, really. One division is education. And on, you know, this concept of education, it's this curriculum of, you know, mindfulness, of being present in the here and now, and of learning, you know, how to separate like our machinery from who we really are, learning our emotions, that whole system. So I have a curriculum that I share with businesses, organizations, as well as individual people that I meet. And, you know, sometimes I'll do like little small group workshop in my home, or I'll rent out a space. And I really enjoy doing that. So that's part of it. The other part is my more creative branch, and that's a community branch where I get to really have fun and play with still sharing the message and the messages that matter to me. So, for example, I do a show with my very good friend Jack Graham. We collaborate and we have a show called Living Room Theater. And in living room theater, we actually perform in people's living rooms. We perform a show of about 70 minutes, and really 70.
70?
Yeah, 70.
Wow. Okay, excuse me. Go ahead.
But believe it or not, the show itself is not the most important part. The most important part comes after the show, because we begin to engage the audience in a dialogue about, you know, the reflections on the show, and what did this make you think of, and what did you relate to, and really what matters to you in life. And the show is made up of small pieces that really explore the drama of everyday life. And it's simple reflection on the things that we get stuck on. And there's some live music and some like more experimental pieces, but, you know, approaching the same work of really figuring out how to create a life that matters to us deeply, that we get to create as opposed to that we get to be at the effect of. We do this as a form of entertainment, and then we get to like really have that bonding moment of sharing that with one another. Also on the community branch, I do other projects, and I have, you know, friends that I collaborate with. Logan Anderson and I collaborate on the Listening Project. And in the Listening Project, we will attend festivals, so maybe like art festivals or Earth Day Festival, and we'll set up a tent, and we'll have pairs of seats, and we invite people to be listened to completely, unconditionally, undivided attention for 5 minutes, and the person who's listening to them is purely a listener. So they zip it and they're just present, providing eye contact, and they listen to that person. And that person can express anything they want. They can talk about what they had for breakfast that day, or they can talk about what's been going on in their week or what's been weighing on them emotionally. And it's amazing what comes out of people's mouths and how quickly they are to really share what matters. And it bubbles right up. Sometimes, these are people that are just walking by that didn't expect this, and they saw this booth and, they ask, what's this? And we invite them to sit down and be listened to. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know what to say. I'm not sure. And we're like, that's okay. Take your time. And it unfurls and it all comes pouring out, and they're just listened to. And with that project, it's really the message of how rare it is that we give one another that complete and undivided attention. How rare it is also that we get to express ourselves without feeling like we're going to be judged or like we're going to have to answer questions, but just pure, stream of consciousness, and being able to share that with somebody who has a desire to witness that with us. So there's other projects, but as you can see, that's my more playful branch. It's where we get to engage with the community and have fun while still being connected to this work.
Those two, this sounds really like a lot of fun, and no wonder why it's so easy and so engaging to be listening to you. Really, thank you very much. But do those two projects that just mentioned, do they have something in common? Are you trying to accomplish something really specific with those two projects?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the main goals of the Institute as a whole is to provide a space of belonging. And I think with those two projects, that's very much the thread that ties them together. It's that we're creating a space where people, just by being human, they belong and they're welcomed, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to be any certain way. They're just welcomed and accepted.
Wow. Beautiful. I was just wondering, I was really into the story of the living room theater.
Yeah.
So when you go and perform that play, is it always the same play? Do you change the play according to the agreement that you have with the house owner or or whoever, hires you to do that? How does that work? It sounds fascinating to me, really.
Well, let us know. We'll come pay you a visit in your living room.
Please. Plano, Texas. Anytime.
Great.
Anytime. Thank you, Tisse. Please go ahead. I'm really intrigued. Really intrigued.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a different show every single time. We've performed in over 130 living rooms so far. We've had this project for a couple of years, and we've traveled around Florida. Right now, we haven't gotten out of Florida, but we've gone quite the distance here in Florida. And it's a different show every time. It's structured improvisation, but it's not goofy, it's not silly. We have some very simple rules, and one of those is we never play other characters. We're always some version of ourselves in different situations. We explore conversation and storytelling in different ways. And then, as I said, we also have the musical pieces and the more experimental pieces. But it's always, the show gets crafted the days leading up to the show. So Jack and I will talk and we'll be like, what's been on your mind lately? And, what ideas do you have? And we'll start building the show. We'll start taking a look at pieces that are serious and these are reflective and maybe a little bit of drama, some conflict, and to really model how we can work through the conflicts that naturally come up in a positive way. We've got so many examples on, TV and movies of people not resolving conflict, of, like taking matters and really just utilizing force as opposed to, working something out, using communication, really reaching within themselves and being vulnerable with somebody else. And those are the types of things that I feel are missing right now in our entertainment, because it can be extremely entertaining to see, we always want to see how conflicts get resolved. And if we can resolve conflict without the use of force or aggression, and we can utilize, a way of us learning more about one another and really expanding how we be, like, I think that's really beautiful. So that's how, we end up like building this show, and we really try for it to be varied. So we're taking you on an emotional roller coaster throughout it. And all the while exhibiting, the best that life has to offer, like really in a beautiful way, like really appreciating life, a lot of gratitude, deep connection with one another. And we utilize what's been on our minds lately, because, I'm sure you've heard of, like, it's just the collective consciousness, right? So the types of things that have been going on in my mind this week, they're not that far off from what my neighbor's been thinking about, or it might be just like a small idea or something that we're experiencing, maybe, a general emotion. And I think that's part of the magic, when I really can take a look at what my experience has been in the past week, and then I find a way to share that, to really communicate that with strangers in a living room. I discover that I'm not alone in it. And when they witness the show, they discover they're not alone with it. And then when we have the conversation after the show, they all get to connect together in realizing that it's all very similar. Our human experience is not that different. We have it that we're alone, and my life must be very different than your life. And it's not at all. We all get scared. We all struggle in our own ways, and are trying to find the right journey, the right path for ourselves.
I think that you kind of went over the outcome of those sessions, what happens after those sessions. But why would what's the main reason why people contact you? What are they trying to accomplish for those kinds of plays? I mean, for the living theater.
If you feel that you haven't had enough connection with people, like, we have a lot of connection nowadays through our phones, through social media, through our computers. There's a lot of like technology that's facilitating communication. However, I feel that something that we confuse it with is connection. It's facilitating communication, however, not so much connection. So if we can, like, if you're experiencing that there might be a lot of communication going on, but not so much connection, if you don't feel related to people, living room theater is exactly what you want to host in your house, because it provides an excuse, a fun way for you to invite your friends over, or family, coworkers, neighbors, whatever. We've had different people do different things. We've done it for birthday parties, so on and so forth. And, that provides that opportunity for you to get together. And really what you will have from having us in your space is that experience of togetherness. In the olden days, I mean, this isn't anything new, right? In the olden days, people used to gather and, would have people perform, and music and, theater. It was more normal and natural to have that in the home. And then we got away from that, and, and then there was like radios, and then there was television, and now, with our computers and all of our technology. And now, there might be a different member of the family in like a different room, each with their own device. And we're losing that in-person human contact. And so that's one issue that having this event in your house addresses and connects you again
And what are the requirements in order to be able to have this living room theater experience at home? Do you have a set of like requirements, conditions? I don't know how you call them.
So we ask for a minimum of 8 people as our audience.
Okay.
We've done shows for very few people, and then we've done shows for about 55 people at one time. And, we usually try to keep it small because it's an intimate sort of gathering. We love doing it in living rooms. The living room is just such a magical space. It's where we really get to relax and take off the mask of trying to appear any certain way. We really just get to be at home. So we like keeping it in living rooms, and we don't need much space. We will help you rearrange your furniture. And we do it by donation because we just love to do it. And, we need to have some funding to keep it moving forward. But it's not a big production that requires, fancy lighting or a sound system. So we keep it very simple. It's very minimalistic. And more about the content rather than like the show of it. So it's pretty basic. Right now, we're in Florida. If we can get 5 shows in a city outside of here, or like in a state outside of here, we are totally willing to travel because we love this and we would like to spread more of it around.
Wow, fascinating. We went over a little bit on the time for my questions, but I really found that fascinating, and I think that at Mindalia TV, our viewers, I think that they were really intrigued about what was going on. So let's jump into let's jump into the questions from the audience. Before that, would you mind reminding us or telling us where can we find you online, please, Tisse?
Absolutely. So my organization is called the Elar Institute. So our website is www.elarinstitute.org, and that's spelled ELAR, institute.org.
What does ELAR, what's the meaning of Elar? What's the origin?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So actually, living room theater came first before Elar Institute. Now it's, under the umbrella. But when I started living room theater, it was, one of those projects that I had on my back burner. One of those ideas that, you think, someday I'll do that. I'd like to do that, and someday. And one of the things that I tell, people that I work with all the time, I say, if you have an idea for something that would bring you joy, something that you're passionate about, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't say someday, because someday never gets here. And all of a sudden, I realized, oh my gosh, I have something on my back burner. Here I am, teaching, don't wait, don't have things on your back burner. And I had a project on my back burner. So when I realized this, I decided, all right, time to start, time to dive in. And really, I just wanted a fun theater project, as part of my own self-expression and playtime and connection with others. So I shared, the idea with some friends, and I decided I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to spend money on a theater. I didn't want to spend a long time like in rehearsal out, in order to present it. I wanted to start with what I had. I had my living room, and I had some ideas, and I just wanted to test it out. And so we dove in, and from the day that we started planning the show to the first show, the first one was a week, and we decided we were going to fail our way forward and just figure it out and see what people reacted to and what they liked and what they didn't like. And from that very first show, it went amazingly well. And our friends started requesting having it in their living rooms. And then the people that they invited, we went into their living rooms. And we started discovering that the fact that we had ended up in living rooms wasn't it was kind of by accident. It was just me starting with what I had available to me. But living rooms turned out to be the perfect space for us. As I said before, we discovered the magic of a living room. It's intimate. It's where the most significant moments of our lives happen, because it's the space that we share with our loved ones, whether they're our friends or our partners or our children. It's just, your child can learn to walk in your living room. You say I love you for the first time in a living room. You have dinner and, it just, on the couch. I mean, there's so many things. You're sick on your couch, right? Like all of these moments of everyday life that are so beautiful and special happen in a living room. Not to mention that we're surrounded by the things that matter to us. So the books that we like to read, or the movies that we enjoy, the music. And so being in those spaces, all of a sudden we're like, wow, living rooms as a concept, like this is where I'm at home. What if I could be who I am, like the person that I am when I'm in my living room? What if I could be that person out in the world? And I was like that free, like that freedom, that being at home, I could be out in the world. And I don't know, we were just blown away by this concept of living rooms and the beauty of it. So when I thought about creating the Institute, I'm like, I want a short name that's simple. And our show, we normally call it LRT, like the living room theater, LRT. And I was like, oh my gosh, LR, living room. So it comes from that. It comes from simply the letters L and the letter R. And we spelled it out, L-A-R, E-L-A-R. And that's what it stands for. It stands for that beautiful
Awesome.
space where you're at home.
Beautiful. Story after story. Thank you so much. You're definitely a great storyteller. Okay, so let's go for our first question. So how can we express our feelings if others around us feel uncomfortable about it? How can we do it without hurting other people's feelings?
Beautiful. Yes. So one of the things is really taking responsibility for our feelings. So nobody else, no other person and no other situation, external circumstance can create a feeling within us. What creates feelings within us is our needs. And sure, somebody's actions or words or a circumstance might be a stimulus. But when we notice that it's really the need that is providing that emotion within us, we can take responsibility for it. So, say for example, if you tell me, I don't want to be with you anymore, right? And if I hear that and I internalize it as in, you're making me feel bad, well, now I've given you the power of my emotions, and it's an inaccurate conclusion, right? If I can really see that it's my need for connection and belonging and whatever is being activated in that moment that is providing that emotion, it allows me to now be with you in whatever you're experiencing, right? So whenever we have feelings that we want to express to another person and we're worried about how they're going to take it, the best thing that we can do is to express that as part of our message. Look, I have something I would like to say to you, and I'm worried that you might make it mean that I don't care about you, or I'm worried that you're going to be upset by what I have to say. And my emotions have to do with these needs. Right? They're mine. They're not your responsibility. So if we can just communicate everything that's there, all of our levels of worry that we have about it, even in expressing ourselves, we provide an environment where other people are more receptive to actually listening, as opposed to feeling like they're going to be blamed or attacked or judged. Is
Excellent.
that clear?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Next question. Why are we so disconnected to our feelings?
Yes. I think this in large part is that we've been taught to not be connected to our feelings. So, if ever you were upset as a child, you might, remember being told, don't feel that way, or don't cry, or you shouldn't be upset about that. And we start learning that it's not acceptable. Now, add to that us not really understanding why emotions come up. Why would we want to experience negative emotions if they aren't giving us any new information, if they aren't providing us with a gift? Because, really when it informs us of something, oh, we can be grateful for the gift of that communication. But if it's not communicating anything, and now I'm just suffering a negative emotion, we're going to want to push it away. Right? And so I think that more than anything is we get taught not to deal with them, when not wanting to. And as Brene Brown teaches, Brene Brown is a shame researcher and talks a lot about, empathy and a lot of emotional intelligence work. I love what she does. And, she, oh my gosh, I totally just lost my train of thought here. Oh, yes. So what she says is that you can't selectively numb. We wish we could just numb the negative feelings. And we can't. If we start numbing negative feelings, it numbs the entire spectrum of emotion. It numbs our whole communication system. So, so this is why, we have such a difficult time with it, because we just start trying to push it all away when it's uncomfortable.
Excellent. Fantastic. Next question. I feel very disconnected to most people. It is very hard to me to feel attached even to my closest families. What can I do to bond?
So I think that the best way to really get connected with other people is to get out of our own heads. Because sometimes we focus so much on our perceptions of what's going on that life is happening outside of us. It's not happening in our head. Being present and being in the moment requires not just you doing inner reflection. It also requires, connecting to the sensations of what's going on in the world around us. So curiosity. If I were to sum it up in one word, curiosity. Do you want to really find that connection with your friends and family that love you already, that care about you? Start getting curious about what's going on within them. Start asking more questions. Start just spending time with them, and get curious. So, what matters to them? What have they been thinking about lately? What dreams do they have? What have they always wanted to do and never gotten to do? And just start taking a peek a little further into their own world in a way that lets go of any previous assumptions. With the people that are close to us, especially if we do already spend time around them, it's easy to assume, oh, I know what they have going on, or I know what they think about this. Take them on newly, as if they're this mysterious creature that you have no idea who they are, and rediscover them, rediscover what matters to them and what makes them tick.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next question. Give me an advice to handle anger management.
Okay, so what is anger, right? Anger is really a mask for fear. When we're angry, it's because we've made a conclusion. It's a thought that happens, and we've concluded something. Usually, what like anger on the outside, when we're like feeling that rage, it's just like it kind of like takes over our body. And notice that what's really under there is that fear that has concluded, I'm helpless, I'm powerless in this situation. The only time that anger shows up is when we feel we are ineffective at really fulfilling the need that's there. So whether, we're angry for something that somebody did to us or did to somebody else or a situation that we're in. It's really a tragic expression of feeling helpless. Like, I don't have a strategy to meet the need that I have in this situation. And normally, we're not wanting to tell the truth about that because it's a reaction that comes from life is dangerous. And I'm afraid of what's going to happen out there. And so I need to protect myself. I need to put a wall and maybe act with force to make things happen that aren't going to happen otherwise. When we can soften a little bit and really take a look at that fear underneath, we'll notice that the anger just dissipates when we get honest about the fear that's underneath. And we can start really taking a look at what are the other emotions that are underneath that. Because I promise, anger is just a mask, and there are some other varied emotions that are going to be underneath that surface. Sometimes it'll be loneliness. Sometimes it'll be hurt. Sometimes it'll be confusion. So you need to find out exactly what are the emotions that are there, that are coming up in those situations, so that then you can take a look at what's creating that, so that you can find your power again. Now, earlier I said that our emotions are our communication from our higher self or from our soul, indicating as to whether we're on the right track or not on the right track in relation to the truth of the universe. To conclude a thought that says, I am powerless, is so terribly out of alignment. It is not true in the least bit, and our higher self knows it. And so it communicates that negative emotion. It says, whoa, this is way off. Because each one of us is powerful beyond measure. And that's the truth. And I know sometimes it feels so very far away. And we want to get to that place, and we try to reach for it. But our work is just to go for the next step. We can just baby step our way there. Just go for that thought that provides a little bit more relief and a little bit more relief. And we can make our way there to being back in a space of feeling our power and being present to that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question. Do you think that artists are more awakened? Are they more sensitive to emotions, and why?
I do. I mean, you're talking to somebody who loves the arts and culture and who has great appreciation for that. There is, I think that art, all of art is two things, right? All of art is, one, me capturing my experience of life in some shape, way, or form, whether it's a painting or a song or a dance. It's me capturing an aspect of life, whether it's an emotion or an experience. So I'm capturing life. And two, I'm communicating. I'm communicating what I'm seeing. I'm communicating my experience of that. And I believe that there is great power in that, stepping back to reflect on life, to see our experience instead of just like being in it all the time. And to me, that's the mark of somebody who's an artist, somebody who's a creative, is that ability to pull back and be like, oh my gosh, like, take something as simple as a glass of water. If I'm to paint a glass of water, I'm noticing everything. I'm being very present. It's an awareness. If I'm doing a dance of water, it's the same thing. It's just being present and aware and sharing my experience of what I've witnessed. So in that sense, I think that there's a different level of being connected to life, being present to life. And, we can call that, being awakened, of course.
Excellent. Next question. I think social media has turned us into more isolated people. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think that social media is a beautiful tool. It's a tool. It's all it is. It's not good. It's not bad. You know, I say beautiful because it's complex, and it's been something that I don't even fully understand how it works. Right? It's a complex structure. However, just like with any tool, we can use it to create, or we can use it to destroy. So if I have a hammer, I can build beautiful things with that hammer. If I use that hammer to tear down walls, or to destruct or to hurt someone, like the tool is simply the tool. So I feel that the way that a lot of people, that the way in society now we've started utilizing social media, it has become harmful because we're trying to replace connection with social media. However, I think it's beautiful when we can utilize social media to really spread messages, to find new ways of connecting with one another in person. I think definitely don't have your friendships exist only on social media. You utilize social media so that you can really stay connected, to get together in person more, to have more experiences, to share ideas, to really promote what happens in our physical world, what happens offline. So if anything, maybe it's just a practice of self-regulation, of making sure that you're spending the majority of your time with other people in person. And, like, I don't see anything wrong with utilizing a tool to facilitate communication. But that, again, I think that's a difference, right? It's a tool for communication. It is not a tool for connection. And just being clear on that makes all the difference in the world.
Fantastic. Last question, Tisse. Are we just avoiding connection? Are we scared to be vulnerable?
Yeah, I think this totally goes back to confusing the machinery of our mind, of our survival-oriented brain, with who we are. This machine, all it cares about is survival. It's going to go for easy, convenient, and safe. And a lot of times interacting with each other, with other people, it doesn't feel very safe. But that's just the machine talking. Because and if we were the machine, we would have no problem with that. We would have no problem with being disconnected and being, each having our very individual lives. And, now we can basically exist without coming into contact with another person. We can, do our online shopping and to have groceries delivered or food delivered, or, we have we're self-contained. We can work from home. We don't have to interact with other people. But we're feeling the effects of that when we do that. And that's because our soul, who we really truly are, has a desire to connect with other living beings. And so I think that will overcome, or has, it, like we're seeing, it causes great pain to not listen to that, because that's the driving force. That's who we really truly are. It's what we desire. And I think it's really important that we pay attention there and we honor that. And we find our courage to step outside of the machine and really put ourselves out there and be vulnerable. A lot of us are waiting for the fear to settle. Like, when we experience social anxiety, we're waiting for the fear to settle so that we can actually take some action. And that's the funny thing about courage, right? That in regards to courage, like what's the requirement for courage? It's fear, because without fear present, it's not courage anymore. So to really value your own courage in stepping forth and doing what deep down your soul needs, I think that's gonna make all the difference in the world. And I think we're desperate for it at this point. And I love it. I love that we're desperate for it now, because it's a wake-up call. If we're suffering from social anxiety and it's getting painful to the point where we're saying we need to find something some way to alleviate this pain, this suffering, good. I'm glad that we're in that pain that has reached that threshold where we're finally seeking something to relieve it, some way to truly address it, as opposed to ignoring it and just pushing it aside. So whenever somebody comes to me and they say, oh, I'm in great pain, I say, good, not good that you're in pain, but good that you're finally motivated to really seek something that works for you in an authentic, meaningful way.
Wow, excellent. Well, I have to say, it's been a pleasure really to listen to you, to be able to ask you a few questions and to know what you're doing, the amazing work that you're doing. That's how blessed the Florida community is with your presence over there. So everybody knows now that with 5 potential living rooms in any place in the country, we can have you there. So that's awesome. And again, it's been a real pleasure to have you here today. So, if you want to again remind our audience, where can we find you, Tisse? It would be a pleasure.
Absolutely. So the website is elarinstitute.org. That's ELAR institute.org. And I just want to say, what a beautiful opportunity to use our social media to connect, to share ideas that matter to us, that help us to really engage with what's important to us and how to live more fulfilling lives. It's a beautiful opportunity. I love what you at Mindalia TV are doing. Thank you for your hard work and your energy, your effort. Thank you for reaching out and allowing me to share myself. I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And, we are here to serve you, and we are here to make sure that, Mindalia TV viewers, know all the answers to those questions that you were asking in the beginning. So thank you. And again, this is Angel Ribo with Mindalia TV. Thank you very much to everyone for being with us today. See you soon. Bye-bye.